I'll mute you.
All right, good evening, everyone. The hour of 7 o'clock having arrived on this Tuesday, the 6th of October, 2020, I will now call to order the Common Council of the City of Racine. The first item of business for us is to say the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please rise and face the east and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Alder Tate, are there any excused absences we should record into the record this evening?
Alder Horton reached out and asked to be excused.
Great, and we also got a communication from Alder Glenn asking to be excused. Duly noted for both of those. Thank you very much. The first item of business is the approval of the Journal of Council Proceedings for the 15th of September 2020 council meeting. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve said minutes. The motion from Alder Coe, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alder Land. Any discussion on said minutes? We could unmute everybody. All those in favor of the September 15th, 2020 minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. The next item of business is the proclamations for today. We have 3 of them, actually, and I am happy to read each of them into the record. The first proclamation is in regards to Mental Health Awareness Month. I will read this now into the record. Whereas mental health is a part of overall health, and whereas 1 in 5 adults experiences a mental health problem in any given year, and whereas approximately 1/2 of chronic mental illness begins by the age of 14 and 3/4 by the age of 24, and whereas suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and the 2nd leading cause of death amongst young adults, and 90% of people who die by suicide have an underlying mental illness. And whereas long delays, sometimes decades, often occur between the time symptoms first appear and when individuals get help, whereas early identification and treatment can make the difference in successful management of mental illness and recovery, whereas it is important to maintain mental health and learn the symptoms of mental illness in order to get help when it is needed, whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping end the silence and stigma that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help, and whereas public education and civic activities can encourage mental health and improve the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness. Now, therefore, I, Corey Mason, Mayor of the City of Racine, do hereby proclaim October 4th through 10th, 2020 Mental Illness Awareness Week, signed herein. The next proclamation we have is Red Apple, and they're winning the National Blue Ribbon Award. Very exciting. We're doing this at the request of Alder Coe, who brought this to our attention. And really wanted to congratulate the students and faculty and the leadership at Red Apple, along with the parents, for their support, and I will read this now. Whereas Red Apple Elementary School, located in the City of Racine, has been nominated for and received a National Blue Ribbon Award, and whereas only 8 Wisconsin schools were selected for the U.S. Department of Education's 2020 National Blue Ribbon Schools program, whereas this prestigious award recognizes top-performing schools based on academic performance and achievement, and since 1982 has worked to recognize more than 9,000 schools. Whereas Red Apple Elementary was selected for recognition for its tireless work to close achievement gaps, as well as being the only RUSD choice school dedicated to STEAM-based instruction. And whereas on the most recent state report card, Red Apple scored an 88.2, with the state average being 73.9 out of 100 possible points for closing the achievement gaps, and scored an 88.7, with the state average being 86.8 out of 100 points for on-track and post-secondary readiness. And whereas, in addition to being a recipient of a National Blue Ribbon Award, Two of Red Apple's teachers, Nicole Paul and Susan Kelly Johnson, have also been recognized by Encore Awards in Education for the 2020 school year. Whereas the City of Racine is fortunate to have teachers and staff so dedicated to the education and success of all students. Now, therefore, I, Corey Mason, Mayor of the City of Racine, do hereby recognize Red Apple Elementary School as a recipient of the National Blue Ribbon Award and an exemplary elementary school, signed herein. Congratulations very much to all the folks at Red Apple. I see Jeff's got a couple visitors there. I'd like to unmute him for just a second to see if he or any of his guests wanted to say anything. Alder Coe?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I'm very proud of the school. My grandkids go there, and it says it takes a village to raise kids, and Red Apple is the whole package. I mean, I've been going there a lot over the last few years, and I've seen what they've done, and we all should be really very proud of our kids and our staff there. So, and this is, say hi. This is my granddaughter, Kaisis. Say hi.
Hi.
Okay. And this is
Hello.
this is Bailey.
Hi, Daly.
And they both just started. Come here, and Cassie. These two just started Red Apple this year, and I'm very, very proud of everybody there. And I'm hoping, even with COVID, that we can continue to move forward with this. Thank you guys very much, and thank you for the proclamation.
Thank you, and congratulations to your students that are there with you. Thank you very much. Our last proclamation today, and certainly not least, is the recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month, and I have a proclamation that I will read herein. Whereas Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates and recognizes the contributions Hispanic Americans have made to the Racine society and culture, and honor of our Central American neighbors who celebrate their independence in September. Whereas Hispanic Americans represent an array of distinct and vibrant cultures, each of which enriches our city communities in valuable ways. And whereas in the last year, the City of Racine has worked hard to establish and execute a plan of revitalization for the Cesar Chavez Community Center, creating a space of valuable resources to the Hispanic community to provide cultural diversity in an inclusive manner for all in the community. Whereas Hispanic Racinians have made a great contribution to our community. They run successful businesses, teach our next generation of leaders, and pioneer scientific and technological breakthroughs. Whereas this month, let us honor their distinct heritage while reaffirming our commitment to enabling them to build a future bright with hope and opportunity for themselves, their families, and our country. Now, therefore, I, Corey Mason, Mayor of the City of Racine, do hereby proclaim the 15th of September through the 15th of October, 2020, as Hispanic Heritage Month here in the City of Racine, signed therein. And that concludes our proclamations for this meeting. Thank you so much. The next item of business before us is the committee reports. The first report up is Finance and Personnel. Alder Taft, do you have any items for separate consideration?
I do this evening. Item 609-20 was requested for separate consideration.
Okay.
So I'll start with reading that item.
Yep.
So the item reads, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the purchasing agent submitting bid results of official notice number 8, 2020 janitorial services, parks, recreation, and cultural services. Recommendation is to approve the 2-year contract to be awarded to Clean Co. Racine Incorporated at their bid price of $283,000, $283,835.91, they being the lowest responsive bidder, and funding for this project is available in accounts as listed. That is the item.
Chair Taft, would you like to move adoption?
Yes, move to approve. Item 609-20.
Is there a second? Second from Alder Coe. Is there discussion on the item? I see Alder Peterson has his hand raised. Alder Peterson?
Yes, I got a question on this. Is it true, or is my understanding that all the community centers are still shut down at this time?
They are not open to the public. We do have people that are in there working every day, but they are not currently open to the public.
Right. So to me, it doesn't make sense that we have 40-hour people or a 16 or 24-hour person in there cleaning during this pandemic. Like you said, we're going to be making some hard decisions, getting rid of a lot of positions. seems pretty simple to me that with this contract should be drawn up as such that the services won't be needed or rendered until the pandemic is over or the community centers are open to the public.
I know we have the purchasing agent, I believe, is on the phone. If Monica would like to address that at all.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I do know that the contract right now, just did the bid results for this, but the contract for CleanCo, they have adjusted their hours. They're not working full-time at the moment since the community centers are closed. This is just a 2-year cleaning contract for general cleaning.
My understanding, when I read the contract, some of them are 40 hours a week, some of them are 16, one's 24. And then the smaller ones, Tyler, the cemetery and parks are even fewer than that. So you're saying
Yep.
right now it's adjusted, what are they adjusted down to for the 40-hour ones?
I don't have that handy here.
Monica, do you have an
It's-
estimate of how much they're reducing? Is it in half or is it just?
So I know we are getting more because we have 2 contracts with CleanCo. One is for the community centers and the other one is for the building complex, City Hall Annex and the police department. We actually increased it more for City Hall and community centers. I'm not sure how many hours they're cleaning, but I do know that they did cut back.
It would be nice to know, like I said, to me, it doesn't make sense to have people in there cleaning a building that you only have a handful of employees in there that should be able to take care of it themselves. I don't know if it's appropriate to make a motion to have the contract drawn up to take effect once the community centers have been reopened. I think all these contracts are on a monthly, they give you a monthly cost, basically. They cost it out monthly. I don't know if that's appropriate, something that I can do. Maybe the city attorney can speak to that, whether or not that's something that can be drawn up.
Go ahead, Scott.
Well, the contract can certainly reflect that sort of need. The question for the Common Council is whether or not to accept the bid based upon the request for bids that was published and based upon the bid request that the companies responded to. If the council is not satisfied with the request for bid and the bids received, the council could certainly direct that this project be rebid, but the bids were based upon the specifications included in the request for bids.
I understand that, and I'm speaking against this, and I'll vote against it strictly because I understand supposedly they've reduced their hours, but I got no specific how many hours they've reduced it. If nobody's in their buildings, there should be nobody in there cleaning them.
Okay, other discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, oh, I'm sorry, Alder Tate the second.
I guess my clarifying question might be for the purchasing agent. Obviously, the bid was made based on a certain amount, perhaps the maximum that we would provide. And if we go beyond that, then there's something that has to come back to the council. But what sort of flexibility is there in terms of our, agreement with them to say, we accept that if you're working 40 hours a week or X amount of hours, obviously this is what they bid and they were the lowest responsive bidder. Is there anything that prohibits us as the city from saying we don't need you as much as you bid, but we still have those same rates to work with?
I don't know if Scott can kind of answer that question.
Well, the bids were received based upon each location. And so the dollar amounts are based upon the location, based upon the community centers in this instance. And for example, and I can go through each of them if you want, but the John Bryant Center It's 40 hours per week plus an additional 4 hours per Saturday during basketball season. I'm sorry, these are the operating centers. Required base hours, Chavez, 40 hours per week, Saturdays 4 hours, Sundays 4 hours. And they each go through the hours. Humboldt, 16 hours a week, plus 4 hours on Saturday or during basketball season. The King Center, 40 hours per week, plus 4 hours on Saturdays during basketball season. The Tyler Domer Center, 24 hours per week, plus 4 hours on Saturdays during basketball season. The Mound Cemetery office, it's 8 hours per week. The Park Service Center is 8 hours per week. And I've come to the end of the bid. I think I got all of them. So it depends on location, and that's the way the bid was put out. Again, if the council's not satisfied with that's the correct number of hours bid, it could reject the bids and direct the contract to be rebid.
Alder Coe.
Yes. So we were closed up pretty much last year. Do we have any, so I'm assuming we didn't have to pay them the full amount. Do we have any idea of what the amount of money that wasn't paid to them for this past year?
I will refer your question to Monica in purchasing. Monica?
I don't really have that information handy. Each department, like the Parks Department, would handle their own payments. This bid was actually, we would do this every year for the community centers. And it's all prior COVID, you know, and COVID has changed stuff. Like we've either added or we've removed services. I can find out if we can cut back some services, reduce the hours, and then once we're back open to the public, we can work with that.
Yeah, I guess what I was wondering is, I mean, could we just keep this contract in place and adjust it accordingly to how many hours they work instead of rebidding this thing? Because they bid this thing in good faith.
Right, and this bid is actually based on those set hours. Those are the hours that were needed prior to COVID when we were open. So we can probably work with CLECO and with the attorney's office to see if there's some flexibility to work less hours.
Yeah, I'd like to do that instead of rebidding this thing, because I don't think anybody's gonna come out and bid on this with this COVID stuff anyhow.
Correct.
So, I mean, so if we could find that out, I'd still like to approve this contract and then adjust it accordingly, working with the city attorney's office and you, Monica.
Just, I have a question for the city attorney then. So like, for example, it says there's hours in there for Saturdays when the basketball league is going. If the basketball league isn't going because of COVID, does that mean the city has the flexibility to say, we don't need you for those hours because we don't have basketball going this Saturday? Or are we under the terms of the bid required to pay them the full amount based on what's laid out here, whether we need them or not?
Well, we can certainly work with CleanCo. The bid that was, or the request for bids that was submitted or published anticipated these particular needs on behalf of the city, and the bidder responded based upon the request for bid. So the bidder's anticipation is that they will be paid for the entire amount requested. I know that we've been working pretty well with CleanCo over the past few years, and we can certainly work with them in an attempt to modify the contract we ultimately have. But I guess I can't guarantee that'll happen because they bid based upon the published request for bids, and that's what they anticipated, the work and the costs involved.
Alder Taft.
Yes, so is it, I guess this is a question for the city attorney. Could we refer this back to the finance committee for further review at this time, and then bring it back to council with the intention of discussing this at the committee level and finding out more about how we can adjust? Because we certainly, when the community centers open again, want to have cleaning available, and so there's sort of both sides of those coins. We don't want to be left high and dry when we open to the public again. So I'd be interested in discussing this further in committee.
So Alder Taft, are you making a motion to refer this back to finance and personnel?
I guess I was asking the city attorney if that would be appropriate at this time, if we can adjust it that way, or whether we have to rebid, I guess. Because if we can do it that way, that would be my motion to refer back to the committee. But what say you, Mr. Attorney?
My recollection is, and I'm trying to find it, I'm sorry, maybe Monica can help, that this bid is anticipated to begin on January 1st of 2021. So if the council decides it wants to refer back to committee for further discussion, there's certainly time for that.
Monica, do you want to comment on that at all?
So actually, CleanCo has been really flexible. They used to be Christensen Enterprise, and that contract expired. So we had to rebid this out. They do not charge us for services that they don't do. So if they don't clean, they don't charge us. We're not required to pay them the services that they don't provide. So they've been really flexible with us during this time.
Okay.
If
I guess I'm looking for a clearer answer to Alder Taft's question. If we sent it back to F&P, would we be able to get better clarity on these items, or?
Sure, we could talk, if it goes back to F&P, we can talk to CleanCo and just sort of formalize that between us.
Okay.
And then go from there.
Okay. Well, that would be my motion at this time then, to move to defer to the next meeting of finance and personnel.
All right, Alder Taft made a motion to refer it back to F&P. Alder Young has seconded that motion. Any more discussion on referring it back? Alder Tate the second.
Yes, I was just going to speak in favor of referring back, not only because we want to clarify what the terms may be in terms of like during COVID, what's our actual terms. But also, I think Alder Taft is right in that we want to have something in place so that if and when things do return to full activity, that we're not, high and dry in terms of our cleaning services in the community centers, particularly because, once we do return to full functioning, probably the type of services that we're needing post-COVID will be radically different than the services that we would have been seeking prior to COVID in terms of maintaining cleanliness of our institutions and facilities. So speaking in favor of referring back and hoping that, in the reference that it's quite clear that the expectation is when we review this in committee, it is with the intention of having some specific terms identified relating to the period of COVID cleaning that will occur at a much less frequent rate because of the occupancy of our buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Tate. Alder Coe.
We have enough time to send this back to committee with our budget stuff coming up. I just want to make sure we have enough time to get this finalized before we get there.
We will have one more meeting before the budget, one more F&P meeting before the budget is finalized, at least one. We have another meeting we will have another meeting in October for full council. So we have another meeting 2 weeks from now. F&P will meet next week.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
It's a good question. I see no other hands up. So what's on the motion, or what's on the table right now is a motion to refer item 0609-20 back to finance and personnel for further consideration. The clerk will call the roll. When she calls your name, please vote as you wish.
Alder Santiago?
Aye.
Alder Perez?
Aye.
Alder Mikma?
Sure.
Alder Coe? Sorry,
Aye.
Alderco. Alder Peterson.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Alder Peterson.
Aye.
Alder Levy.
Aye.
Alder West.
Aye.
Alder Lamb.
Aye.
Alder Lemke.
Aye.
Alder Jones.
Aye.
Alder Taft.
Aye.
Alder Taft.
Aye.
Alder Young.
All
There's
right.
going to be 13 ayes.
All right. Alder
Yes.
Taft, do you have any other items in your report for separate consideration?
I just want to add that it appears that Alder Tate also voted aye on that one. And
My
yes.
name was never called.
Oh, apologies. I have it in record.
I have no further items for separate consideration at this
All
time.
right. So please proceed with
So-
your report.
Okay. First item, or next item, item 574-20, request for the general manager of the water utility to be named the authorized representative for private lead service line replacement program application. The recommendation is to approve. Fiscal note, the financial assistance agreement will make available approximately $400,000 in a principal forgiveness loan for lead service lateral replacements. Next item is item 606-20, communication from the general manager requesting permission for the city of Racine to sign certain permit applications and documents pertaining to city-owned lands known as PIN 151032321010010. Recommendation was to approve. Recommendation of the Finance and Personnel Committee is to authorize the mayor on behalf of the city of Racine to enter into a mutually agreeable access agreement with CNH to allow to enter the city's property adjacent to CNH's property south of the wastewater treatment plant for purposes of environmental assessment and remediation activities, authorize the mayor to sign a stormwater permit application as to the city's property adjacent to CNH's property south of the wastewater treatment plant, and designate the mayor as the city's official for the CNH's Chapter NR 718 application for contaminated soils removed from the city's Bluff property for placement on the CNH property. No fiscal note at this time. Item 608-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the purchasing agent requesting permission to purchase 2 Fast Fare Revolutionary Fare boxes. Recommendation is to approve the purchase of these fare boxes at the price of $16,692.56 per fare box. Fiscal note, funding for this project is available in the account as listed. Next item is item 610-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the purchasing agent submitting bid results of official notice number 7-2020, janitorial services building complex. Recommendation of the Finance and Personnel Committee is to approve the contract to be awarded to CleanCo Racine Incorporated at their bid price of $303,225, they being the lowest responsible bidder. Fiscal note, funding for this project is available in the accounts as listed. Item 611-20, communication by Alder Lemke requesting permission for the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract agreement and to accept additional funding in the amount of $86,101 from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services, Division of Public Health for bioterrorism preparedness. The funds will be used to enhance Wisconsin's ability to rapidly mobilize, surge, and respond to public health emergencies identified by the CDC. Grant control numbers, bioterrorism preparedness CRI for $23,704 and bioterrorism focus planning $62,397. Recommendation is that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to enter into a contract agreement and accept additional funding in the amount of $86,101 from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services, Division of Public Health for bioterrorism preparedness. Fiscal note, no city matches required. Item 618-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the city attorney's office submitting the claim of Alan Mirish for consideration for disallowance. The recommendation of the Finance and Personnel Committee is that the claim be disallowed. Excuse me. Item 619-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the city attorney's office, submitting the claim of Gregory Nielsen for consideration for disallowance. Recommendation is that the claim be disallowed. Item 620-20, communication requesting approval of a draft resolution supporting a grant application for $250,000 from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Community Development Investment Grant Program for J. Jeffers and Company for the redevelopment of the former Horlick Haven property at 220 Northwestern Avenue. The recommendation is that the draft resolution be approved. The resolution would allow the mayor and the city clerk and treasurer or their designee to sign the grant application and receive the grant on behalf of J. Jeffers and Company. Fiscal note, the grant control number is 00340. It does not require a local match, but it does require a local resolution of support. Next item is item 646-20, communication sponsored by the chair, presenting a request on behalf of the assessor's office to acquire a computer-assisted mass appraisal software. The recommendation is to approve the purchase of the software and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with the Assessment Technologies for the purchase of the software. Fiscal note, funds for this expenditure are available in the 2021 capital plan. However, due to timing concerns, the full implementation of the software must be complete by October 1st, 2021. We would like to ask to enter into the contract in the last quarter of 2020 so that work can begin right after the budget is passed in November of 2020. Payments will not be made to the vendor until after the 2021 budget is passed. Next item is item 648-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the city clerk, requesting to purchase and sole source COVID-19 polling station barriers from Mashak Engineering Solutions. Recommendation is that the city be authorized to purchase and sole source these polling stations from Mashak Engineering Solutions. Fiscal note, funds to be allocated from the Center for Tech and Civic Life grant in the amount of $47,752.80. This concludes the report of the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Alder Taft. Without objection, the remainder of these items will be placed on the consent agenda. We will now move on to the Public Works and Services Committee and Alder Jones. Alder Jones, do you have any items for separate consideration?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I do not at this time.
Okay, please proceed with your report, ma'am.
Thank you. First item 0638-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of Assistant Commissioner of Public Works Operations, submitted bid results for salt and ice control during the 2020 through 2021 winter season. Recommendation that the bid of Compass Minerals America, Inc. for the purchase of 7,000 tons of road salt for ice control for the 2020 through 2021 winter season be accepted at their bid price of $69.93 per ton delivered, they being the lowest responsible bidder. Physical note, funding for the purchase of available is in the following account: snow and ice control work supplies. The next item 0639-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of Assistant Commissioner of Public Works Operations, submitting an agreement for contract 202-00072, professional services, comprehensive facilities condition assessment, the Concord Group consultant. Recommendation that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized and directed to enter into a professional service agreement with Concord Group on contract as listed for professional service, comprehensive facilities condition assessment. Physical note, the agreement with the Concord Group is in the not to exceed amount of $194,000 with funding available as listed citywide building analysis. Next item is 0640-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of Assistant Commissioner of Public Works Operations, submitting final payment on contract 201-90039, professional service comprehensive energy plan HGA consultant. Recommendation that the professional services provided be approved and the final payment authorized for a total contract amount of $50,000. Physical note, contract was authorized under Resolution 1346-18 dated January 8, 2019. The next item, 0641-20, communication sponsored by Alder Tate II, requesting a preliminary resolution for paving of the alley bounded by Taylor Avenue to Kearney Avenue, Meacham Street to 20th Street, and is the western leg of the alley in this block. Recommendation that a preliminary resolution be introduced for the paving of the alley bounded by Taylor Avenue to Kearney Avenue, Meacham Street to 20th Street. Physical note, this is an accessible alley project, and therefore all costs will be paid by the abutting property owners. Next item is 0642-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of interim city engineer submitting underground utility locate services, results, and award proposals. Recommendation that the purchasing agent be authorized and directed to enter into an agreement from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021 with Precise Underground Marking Corporation to provide underground facilities, locating services for the citywide owned fiber optic and electrical system with a per ticket price as listed. Further recommends that this agreement be renewed for four 1-year extensions provided by the contractor and the city, or provided that the contractor and the city are in mutual agreement. Physical note, estimated contract amount is $90,000 with funding available as listed in the street lighting professional services. Final item is 0643-20, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Commission of Public Works, requesting approval of the transportation project plan and relocation order for state project ID 2703-00-0T West 6th Street project. Recommendation that the transportation project plan and relocation order for state project ID 2703-2020-02 West 6th Street be approved, and the city attorney be authorized to take all steps necessary for acquisition of the property. Physical note, funding for the fee and acquisition of these properties is available in account 45040-57545-0003 Bridge State. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Alder Jones. Without objection, these items will be placed on the consent agenda, and we will now move forward to Alder Coe for the Public Safety and Licensing Committee report. Alder Coe, are either of these items requested for separate consideration?
Well, they're not. We have two items, 061720, communications submitting an application for public passengers business license, Terry Ann Umar, doing business as Racine Taxi, Terry Ann Umar, owner. Recommendation of the committee was to approve. Next item, 062220, communications submitting an application for a premise description change for KW Investments, Inc., doing business as Double Vision, located at 3101 Douglas Avenue, Wendy Coey, agent, 7th District. Recommendation of the committee was to approve, and that's the end of my report.
Thank you very much, Alder Coe. Without objection, both of these items will be placed on the consent agenda. We'll now move on to the Planning, Heritage, and Design Committee. Alder Young, do you have any items for separate consideration?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed with your report, sir.
Thank you. Item 0635-20, request from Rosie Ali of Science Agent for Heating and Cooling Solutions for consideration of a conditional use permit to operate an electronic message sign at 2430 Lathrop Avenue. The judgment of the committee was to defer the item so staff can review underlying issues with the current conditional use permit. Next item, 0636-20. A request by Jody Ruffalo of Wolf Gang Rescue Incorporated for consideration of a conditional use permit to operate a dog rescue intake facility at 1906 Melvin Avenue. This item was recommended to be approved subject to conditions A through F. Next item, 0637-20, request by Kate Knorr and Brooke Hesse of Complete Experience for consideration of a conditional use permit to operate a mixed-use building, adding a salon and personal care business at 3801 Blue River Avenue. This item was approved subject to conditions A through G. Final item, 0653-20, request by Ronald and Charlotte Wheatley of My Father's House Property Management LLC for consideration of a conditional use permit to operate a dwelling unit below the second floor at 1358 Washington Avenue. Recommendation of the PhD committee was to approve subject to conditions A through G. That concludes my report.
Without objection, these items will be placed on the consent agenda. At this time, Alder Tate, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? A second from Alder Taft. If we could unmute everybody real quick. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The consent agenda passes. Thank you, everyone. We'll now move on to Common Council announcements. Just as a reminder, announcements are limited to recognition of city residents and employees, memorials, and non-political community events. Discussion of matters related to government business is prohibited. Are there any announcements this evening? I see no announcements. I would be remiss if, is there somebody waving? Oh, Alder Taft has an announcement.
I just wanted to wish my husband a happy 43rd birthday. It was this week.
All right. And on that note, I would like to wish my wife an early happy birthday, who has a birthday next week. So happy birthday to my wife, Rebecca. Any other announcements? Seeing none, at this time, Alder West, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Multiple seconds. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.